Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of CLX Foundry Live. I'm your host, DJ BluePDX, and here with me, of course, is our lead technical expert, Paul Steffens, and master builder, Christian Garrett. Gentlemen, hi, how are you?
Hey, how's it going? Doing good.
So I understand that today we've got an interesting build. Now, I'm looking at the customer's name. It's Giveaway.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't heard of this one before.
Giveaway?
Yeah.
Oh, it's giveaway. It's a giveaway build. What? There's a giveaway? What's going on with that? Let's talk about that. We've got an amazing giveaway opportunity that opened up on the 28th and is now and is going through November 30th. And we're gonna build that live on the stream right now. And of course, if you want to enter, just hit that little button right there in the chat, as you can see it. Of course, if you have any questions on today's build or have questions about just PC building in general, make sure you throw them in the chat. That's what we're here for, is to answer your questions as well as to build something that looks really amazing. And today's build is super special because it's something we've never shown before.
Yeah, very excited about this case. This is the first one we've ever done. So should we just do a rundown of the parts and then we'll show the case at the end? I think that's probably how we'll go about it. So.
Perfect. We'll save the best for last. Let's go ahead and get into it. Gentlemen, what are we putting inside of today's build?
All right, so we're starting off hot with a 13th gen Intel. This is an i7 13700K. Very excited about that.
That's the first time we've been using a 13.7.
That's right. Yeah, this is only the second 13th gen I built. The first one being the one we did last week, or the Nook build. So
awesome.
And cooling that, we've got a 240 cooler there.
Cool.
That's right.
Cool for the cooler.
Two cools for the 240. The motherboard we're using, we got an ASRock B660M Pro RS.
Nice. We've
got 2 sticks of 16 gig 3200 XPG RGB memory, so for a total of 32 gigs of RAM.
Well, that's definitely going to solve anybody's memory problems.
For our storage, we've got a 1 terabyte M.2 NVMe for the main drive, and then a 2 terabyte Seagate hard drive.
Awesome. Oh, 3 terabytes of space. That's great.
And the video card we're using, we've got an MSI RTX 3060. This is the Ventus 2 model.
Nice.
And for our power supply, we've got a SilverStone SX750. This is an 80 plus platinum, which is pretty nice. And it's an SFX, so it's a little smaller, but we'll talk about that a little bit once we get into the video.
Yeah,
cooling
absolutely.
that, we've got 9 RGB case fans. So this one will look really nice. And then the star of the show, I'll grab the case. This is the first ever one we've done of this custom print design.
I'm excited for this.
So very excited there. We'll get
This thing
this
is
in a good
wicked
shot.
looking. Look at that.
That looks great.
That's incredible.
This is our Scarab.
Absolutely
so it's
amazing.
got our Scarab theme. There
Now,
we
which
go.
form factor is this frame?
So this is an MATX.
Okay.
So we've got an MATX board. I'm surprised we can do 9 fans in these. It's a great case, so that's pretty impressive. I'm going to spin it around one time so you guys can see the back. This panel looks really clean. And
actually, it's amazing.
Let me show you the top as well, and then we'll get started.
Look at that. That's sweet.
Yeah, I love this design.
This is great. I dig it.
Alrighty, well, I'll start taking the panels off. Christian will start on the board, and we'll get to going.
Awesome. Yeah, that case is absolutely spectacular. I'm always excited every time I see one of these cases, just because the artistry goes into it. It requires a very special hand and a very special eye.
It does.
All right. So first things up, we've got an ASRock B660M Pro RS. Now, as boards go, this is an interesting one. So it doesn't have Wi-Fi built into built onto it, but it does have M.2 key for it. It also comes with an HDMI and DisplayPort. So really, you could technically have 2 monitors directly from the motherboard.
Right. Yeah, you could. Yeah.
We don't have to worry about that because that NVIDIA is going to be handling all that.
Yeah, the 3060 will be plenty for that.
So, of course, it handles 13th and 12th gen processors. It is a LGA 1700, so it's a socket 1700. It works with all the last several gens of of processors. It's also our DDR4 board, even though the i7 13th gens do run with either DDR4 or DDR5. This board's just going to be a DDR4.
Yeah, that's one of the things Intel did that I think is kind of nice for people who want to get the next generation of processor, but not buy a whole new setup. So if you've already got a 1700 socket board, you know, you can just buy the new processor and throw it in, as opposed to having to get a new board with DDR5, new RAM, new processor, all that stuff. So
it's a lot of money. Too.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
So talking about the case real quick, what do we have for built-ins as far as USB ports?
Yeah, so this case has two 3.0s and a Type-C on the top here, and then we've got you know, our mic audio port there.
Excellent. Excellent. So this board comes with 7 USB 3.2 Gen 1s and then 6 USB 2.0, so plenty of opportunity to connect peripherals, cameras, mics, or any other type of external devices like a Stream Deck or maybe your Astro headphones or your Go XLR. Lots of different options there, so you've got plenty of room for that. It does have one Hyper M.2 PCIe Gen 4, and then an Ultra M.2 PCIe Gen 3 and a SATA 3. So we're gonna have plenty of connectivity there.
Yeah,
as far as speed goes.
Yeah, a lot of options for adding more drive, more M.2s and all that. So
as you can see, Christian's over here pulling everything apart, getting things done. So let's talk about the heat sinks, Christian.
Okay, yeah, what you got? So, I don't know if you just noticed, I just took off this M.2 heatsink to throw in that M.2 stick in there. So, we got a heatsink here on the M.2, heatsink up here on our VRM, heatsink over here on our south bridge. I mean, this is a pretty good sized heatsink.
yeah, it's pretty tall, honestly.
Let's see. Not too
Interesting.
shabby.
Nice. When it comes to M.2 heat sinks, just as a general idea, what are some things to look out for when you're kind of looking for a board as far as M.2 heat sinks go?
I would say probably your mid-range to higher level boards. Those are going to be the ones with M.2 heat sinks. And really, the one thing that you want to remember when you have the M.2 heatsink is to take the little plastic off underneath.
Yeah, that's a great tip. Yeah, you get some melted plastic and some, probably see it in some performance numbers.
But besides that, it's just really just take off that plastic and screw it on. It's pretty simple.
Yeah, it's really good to have, you know, if you've got, you know, a few games on there that you're using, it'll help dissipate that heat better, keep it cool. It will function without it, but it'll obviously perform better with it on there, so.
I was honestly a little bit shocked. A friend of mine just had to rebuild his PC, and when he pulled the heatsink off of he knew it was having problems, and then it finally died. When he pulled the heatsink off the M.2, the M.2 had melted to the board.
Oh, man.
And I'm like, dude, my first thought was, how in the world did you manage to melt that to the board? He says, I'm just going to guess there wasn't enough ventilation.
Yeah, that's probably what it was.
This PC won't have any issues with because it's got 9 fans on it.
Yeah, I can't believe we're even getting 9 fans into this thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Airflow won't be an issue here.
I had to laugh though because he reckoned that the issue was possibly that he had an i9 with just a standard fan cooler.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that thing was probably pretty warm.
Yeah.
And if the case doesn't have good ventilation, then all that heat's just staying in there.
Yep. Speaking of heat, one of the things I think is really hot about this motherboard, so first of all, as you can see, the 32 gigs of RAM, the 2 different 16 gig sticks are both RGB, and this looks like it lights up really well. But it's also going to be paired with the RGB that's on the board because this board comes with polychrome sync and polychrome RGB.
Yeah, that part's really nice. So all the RGB can sync up if you've got the right cables that plug into the headers, which we do. So.
And will that sync up with the colors on the fans?
Yeah, we can set it. We'll have to go in and set it that way. So for the show, we'll be using the remote, but once we get it into testing, we can have it all sync up with everything.
That's amazing. All right, so Christian, as usual, what's your first steps when you're pulling the board out and getting everything set up? Talk to us about that process of what goes into deciding what you're going to put on and when.
Yeah, so really, I just want to get my motherboard prepped as much as I possibly can before I throw it in the case. Just makes life easier for me. So I like to do my CPU, RAM, M.2s, and retention kit. I know some builders will put their AIO on the motherboard too, and then throw it all in the case together. If that's what you prefer, go for it. I mean, I don't like doing that personally. I just think it's easier without the AIO attached to the motherboard. So
to answer your question, we've got Arknight asks, is it only got 2 slots for RAM? And from what I see, it looks like there's 4.
yeah, got 4 slots.
Yeah, you should have 4 channels total. So upgrading this should not be an issue. If you want to add more RAM to it and get that full 64 in there. Now, we're doing this. We haven't done a whole lot of mini ATX builds on the show yet. How important is it to? Are there different size motherboards and specific motherboards that you need to be using so that things line up?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, this is an MATX board, and
Is that mini or micro?
micro. So
Okay, got
the
it.
mini is the ITX. Something that's nice with this one. So what we're doing right now, so this, like I said, this is an MATX, and this one is a little bit longer than most MATXs are. So we've got some extra mounting holes for our motherboard, or for the motherboard tray in there. So with this case, we're having to add in this extra tray right here. So that's what Christian's doing, and then adding in the standoff. So it kind of extends that motherboard tray out, and then the grommets are under here, so it'll look even better for cable management.
The only reason I bring that up is because my friend who's putting together his PC had a community member bought him a motherboard. The problem is the motherboard is not the same size as the case, and so none of the PCIe or video card slots line up.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's too bad.
Yeah, that
I went,
sucks.
oh, what's going to happen? It's like, well, apparently there's adapters and things. I'm just going to have to sit the cards inside the case. And I thought, you know, that's probably not the greatest idea, but I mean, it's an idea.
Yeah, just to get rid of the case in general. Just plug it all in,
There you
no
go, yeah.
case. That'll
Open
work.
Right.
box.
There we go. Just have it all just sitting on the desk.
Sitting next to you. Just don't knock over your water or your drink.
Right. There we go. There we go.
Change.
So any special considerations with regards to working on a case this size as opposed to one of our larger builds?
I mean, this one, the smaller cases, you definitely want to take your time with a little bit more. That's what we're doing right now, is kind of prepping this, because there's obviously less space to work in. But yeah, that's pretty much it. The MATXs aren't too bad. The ITXs, the really small ones, that's where, you know, you really got to plan ahead your cable management and all that.
I'm going to be intrigued once we get our first ITX build on the show, just because it's going to be a very different process of putting that together.
Yeah.
So let's take a look at chat question says, let's see here. Chandler mentions that while he's playing League of Legends, he always plays at 200 FPS, but lately the FPS would drop to 40 and then jump to 160, and it keeps playing like that. What could be the cause of that? And he says all drivers and Windows updates have been done, and he's got an RX 580 8 gig graphics card. Any idea, gentlemen?
The first thing I would look at is your temperatures. It might be getting a little hot in your case, so your video card could be throttling down, where it's just adjusting, you know, its performance so that it doesn't overheat. So that would be the first thing I'd look at. Other than that, you said your drivers are up to date. Yeah, but that's where I would go with. Just actually make sure your drivers are up to date. Sometimes going back to the driver before the most recent one can fix things, because we all know how that goes when you get like the latest Windows update or latest drivers update and something breaks. So if you just updated, you know, maybe revert back to the previous one.
Chandler mentions that it never reaches over 75 Celsius in the case.
Well, I mean, it sounds like your temperatures are doing fine.
Could a BIOS update be required? Do you know, like, is that a thing that could affect that?
It would be a little uncommon for me to see that fix it, but it's worth a shot if you tried a few other things, if you know your temps are good, which it sounds like you do, you know, and everything's up to date. I'd probably try reverting back to a different video driver before doing a BIOS update.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah.
Excellent, excellent advice, guys. All right, and this, so just to final couple of things, this does have an Intel Gigabit LAN port on the motherboard as well. So along with the M.2s, this should be a fairly cool motherboard as far as temperatures go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I bet
which is good because, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I bet we see great temperatures on this, having the 240 in there and all these fans. Yeah, it's gonna be good.
Absolutely. Let's see here. Now, one of the things that first time for us to actually use here on the show is the i7 13700K processor. So let's chat about that because this processor is kind of impressive, let's be honest. It's a K, so it's overclockable. It does have graphics on the die. And it's got 16 cores and 24 threads. Let's talk about that because I think my default basic knowledge is always that, okay, however many cores you have means you've got that duplicate that times 2, and you've got threads. But this has, this is a little bit different. Tell us what's different about this specific processor.
Yeah, so that threw me for a loop too when Intel started this new way of doing it. And so what that is we have 16 cores, 8 of those are P cores and 8 of those are E cores. And that P stands for performance and the E stands for efficiency. So on our 8 P cores, those will hyperthread, which will give us 16 threads on those 8 cores. And then we have another 8 cores with 8 threads to get the 24.
That's okay. That mathematically makes sense. What are some of the benefits of having a split performance like that, where you have performance versus efficiency cores?
Yeah. So my first take on it when I first heard they were doing this, I was a little kind of a little disappointed because I want however many cores I have, I want that hyper threading. But seeing the numbers on these, this allows it when you're not like maxing out your PC, if you're not gaming, it's going to use less power and run more efficiency and use those efficiency cores.
Got it.
So it is pretty nice. It makes your system more efficient in every scenario, whether from high load or low load.
Well, and speaking of the overclocking, because this board can be overclocked, let's talk about base core versus max turbo frequency.
Yeah, so our base on this is 3.4, and then our turbo is up to 5.4. And I believe those are referring to the P cores will boost up to 5.4, and I think the E cores will boost up to a number slightly lower than that. But yeah, that's a really high boost clock. 5.4 is pretty nuts.
Yeah, it looks like the E core max turbo is going to be 4.2, and then
okay,
yeah, and the 5.4 is that's wild.
It's crazy to see anything at 5 or above now. Like when we're seeing that, it's nuts.
Well, and this also has a 30 meg smart cache and a 24 meg L2 cache. That's got to add to not only its ability to process, but the speed at which it does it.
Yeah, for sure. That cache is a good size to have, and that cache, what that does is it kind of acts like the CPU's own version of RAM, like built in there. So it's it's way faster than your RAM, but so the bigger that is, the more info is prepped and the faster it can perform those tasks.
Nice.
And more is better.
Yeah. And having the smart cache, which I thought was interesting, I had to look up what that was. Apparently that refers to the architecture that allows all the cores to dynamically share access to the last level cache.
That is really impressive.
I'm learning things every single time we do this show. I dig it. So as far as max memory size that you can put on this, this processor will handle up to 128 gigs of RAM. And 2 channels, obviously. As far as the heat goes, let's talk about that because we've got the AIO cooler, but i7s tend to run a little bit cooler than i9s.
Yeah, that's right. They do. So for this cooling solution, we have the 240, like we talked about, and that 240 refers to the size of the radiator, and this size is going to let us put two 120 millimeter fans on it. So you've got, usually for AIOs, the standard is 120, 240, 360. There are 140 mil fan versions, so you can get into the 140, 280 and so on, but most of the time you see 120, 240 and 360.
Yeah.
So yeah, these are a closed loop system, which we usually go over every show. So what that means is everything in this liquid cooler here is all closed. The fluid's already in it. All we have to do is just install it on the board, and the pump is right here under the plate, and it'll just run and it'll work fine. We won't have to do any maintenance to it. We won't have to add any fluid, take any out. So that's really nice. This is what I use at home. I use a 360. It's definitely the way to go for bang for your buck and ease of maintenance.
Do AIOs come with their own thermal paste, or is that something that needs to be applied separately?
It depends on the AIO. Typically, they do come with their own thermal paste, so this one comes pre-applied.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Some cases, like we've done a lot of Intermax on the show, those will come not with thermal paste on the plate, but it'll come with its own tube that you can put some in. We like using Arctic Silver here for our base paste, so we will wipe this off and add some of our own on here for this giveaway build. But yeah.
Cool. Now, as far as I want to just touch on this real quick, because there are options if you're ordering your own PC to upgrade things, not just with the thermal paste, but also with the overclocking.
Yeah, that's right. So you can customize your system and have us overclock it. We do offer CPU overclocking and GPU overclocking, as well as an upgrade to your thermal paste, which right now we're using the Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut, which is very high-end thermal paste. That lets us get cooler numbers and higher clock speeds if we are overclocking it. So
Thermal Grizzly Cryonaut.
Yeah,
I feel like that's a default Xbox game tag, when they just hand you a bunch of words in a string. It's like, all right, sure.
Someone's got it. I know.
I'll be Toaster Bebop. Why not? So we did have a question.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. We had a question coming in from ArcKnight23. What are your thoughts on the new Intel GPUs?
So my thoughts on the Intel GPUs is I'm really excited about it. That's about all I can say. I haven't seen one or held one in person or ran any tests on it, so I don't want to speak to any performance. I know there's probably some reviewers out there who have some info on it, but I like to just kind of wait till we have one in hands in the lab and see how it goes. But I'm very excited to have another player in the game. I mean, that's only better for everybody, more competition in the market.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've had a chance to actually play on them, both at PAX and they had them at TwitchCon as well, which was interesting because they were in very, very small devices. It was awesome. I would say I'm assuming that's a micro ATX or an ITX build. It was just this little square rectangle block, but in there, these things were not running super hot, and I was getting, I want to say, close to 200 FPS in the game that we're playing. And honestly, I'm drawing a blank as to what game it was, but I remember the detail in it was absolutely wild. And I thought it was interesting, the fact that when I held my hand over and around it, there wasn't a whole lot of heat coming off of it. And it was built with a I want to say it was a 13th Gen i9.
Okay, yeah. Oh, wow. But, I mean, that sounds like a good build. Like, from what I've seen with the new Intel GPUs is, it looks to me like the market they're trying to get is kind of that mid-range. They're not trying to go crazy and make some 4090 killer or something like that, Yeah. Which I really like, because, I mean, that's what most people are going to use.
So I feel like that's the market that we need.
Right. So if they can do that and do that solid and have good numbers, then I'm all for it. I'm excited to see them. Yeah. I'm sure we'll get some here, and then we can run some tests and see, and I'm sure we'll do a build with one on there as well. So. Yeah, I'm very excited.
Nice. We got Pup Loki in the house. And of course, as you can see, to the Izzy, exclamation Scarab, get to the information on how to get into this drawing. It is US and Canada, from what I understand. And yeah, there we go.
Yeah, this is the build we're doing. Oh, yeah, go ahead, DJ. Sorry.
ArcKnight did mention, said, I agree. Always thought it'd be cool to run a 3070 with an Arc just for better encoding. The AMD one on my 5700 XT has been sad.
Oh, that's
we
too
go.
bad.
Yeah, the I will say when it comes to graphics cards, especially if you're going to be combining the two, I feel like that would be a daunting task. Is it possible for you to make, like, because I know you can SLI same build graphics cards. Would you be able to run an ARC and an RTX card?
No, no. Unless some you know, some child prodigy out there came up with some software to do it. But no, that wouldn't work.
Challenge has been given, people.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll say no, it can never be done, and then someone will prove me wrong. But no, standardly no. And with NVIDIA cards, you know, they're SLI or NVLink now, I believe. We always still say SLI just because that's what we're used to. And with that, you had to make sure it was the same type of video card you were combining. So, you know, if you were doing a 3070 or a 2070 or a 970, you know, they had to be the same. And AMD had their own version of that called Crossfire, but what was cool with AMD's was you could use different video cards. So you could have like a, you know, a 580 and a 560 or something like that, you know, two different models. So I don't really see that too often anymore. The GPUs are really powerful now, so
yeah.
But yeah.
I'm over here giggling at some 10-year-old who happens to be just literally a genius prodigy.
Mom, hold my juice box. I have coding to do.
Yep.
Then all of a sudden we're going to see this brand new software come out. It's going to be rad.
Yep. See an Intel and NVIDIA collab.
Hold my juice box. I'll be right
Yeah.
back. There you go. All right. So, Christian, at the moment you are about to hook up the AIO, correct?
Yeah, about to slap it up on the top here.
Perfect. Now, as far as the design for this, I'm assuming this is like a lot of our other O11 cases where it's got that under the lower ventilation that comes up through the bottom and then comes out the back and the top. So let's talk about the filtration. How does that work, and what are the benefits of this?
Yeah, so this case has magnetic filters, kind of like the XL that you've seen us do. I'll grab that right now so you can see it on camera here. This is the one for the top, so this is just gonna sit right there on the top. Filter it out. When you want to clean it, you just pull it off and do it. It's got one on the bottom as well. There's a little tray. You can see me slide it out right here. I'm not gonna pull it out all the way, but that's how that one works.
Nice.
Yeah, really easy to clean.
Yeah, and the smart thing about these builds is they have feet on them, so it does create that open airway for you to be able to pull cooler air in from the bottom and push it out the top. Natural flow of air on that level. Of course, when you're putting this computer on something, please make sure it's on something that is not electrically conductive. Using anything from ceramic tile to wood would be probably advisable.
Yeah.
That way you're not setting it on carpet.
For sure. And if you do have carpet, you know, you can like cut off a rectangle of cardboard or something like that. If you don't got anything else handy, and set it on that. That'll just give you some better airflow. Less pet hair being sucked up into your PC.
Also true, and I'll be honest, like that is an amazing thing about pet hair. My dogs don't even get to come down into the studio. They have never been in my studio, and there is dog hair still in my. I have no idea how it gets down here. None. While the child prodigy, so Arknight says, while the child prodigy is coding that, he should make a hard tubing AIO.
Oh, that sounds awful.
Right?
Christian's not about that life.
No.
We do hard tubing open loop systems here, and Christian does do those. So.
And they're wicked. They are wicked. All right, we're getting into our. Well, that's the final fan. It's the back fan. It's the only fan on the back.
The only fan.
Yeah, I wanted to get this fan in and my CPU cable plugged in before I threw that threw my radiator in. That just gives me a little bit more room.
That's your experience showing, Christian.
Yeah.
Well, I'm assuming that's just going to be easier not only for routing, but you also have, you know, not the motherboards in.
Yeah, with these MATX cases, you know, you can kind of get farther in and then realize, oh man, I got to take this out so I can fit this cable in, you know.
Let's see.
And there we go with those. Perfect. All right, next steps.
All right, so yeah, I think we'll be mounting the radiator next, Christian. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and mount the radiator in.
And then we'll have 3 more fans to put in as well.
Perfect. So talking about AIOs, there are several different ways that you can connect an AIO, and or as far as where the fan placement goes.
Right, yeah. So we have our fans that are, we're going to be pushing air through the radiator. That's what you always want to do if you can. You're going to get better at cooling that way. If you're in a spot where you have to put them on the back and suck air through, that'll work, but it's not recommended. But if you're in a situation where you have the extra fans and the space, you can do a push-pull method, which is having fans on both sides of the radiator. So you've got air being pushed through and being pulled through. And that does provide really good cooling. We've seen good temperatures in our testing here.
Speaking of temperatures, Ivory mentioned that he likes to leave his PC on top of a pile of loose cat hair that he keeps beside his fireplace where he burns his used batteries.
Oh, nice. You burn
Wow.
the used batteries?
You got me. Oh my gosh. Please don't. Yeah, everybody, that is a joke. Please do not burn your batteries. Good Lord. Mighty Endeavor is here. Hi, buddy. This says, loves this case. Definitely want to do a build one day. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You know, and there's this case, and then George also has. I know George's PC. He's got that's a micro. That's an ITX, right? Where it's just tiny.
I'm not
like
sure what he has,
block.
but I think he has an ITX. Yeah, even smaller than this. Yep.
Yeah. It's wild, and it's exceedingly powerful. It's awesome. Getting those final fans up in there.
So
We have some really cool stuff
Just mentioned how working on these MATX builds, you know, you can run into things that like, oh man, I gotta take this apart now. I'm in that situation right now. So
okay, well then talk to us about what happened.
yeah, so this top radiator, well, this radiator I was planning to mount on the top here is actually hitting our RAM sticks. So
Oh
I
no.
want to throw our radiator over here now. So not a big deal. We're fine.
On the back.
Yep. So we're good.
Interesting.
Just a little change of plan.
Yep.
I didn't even think about that, but I mean that's also a good reason why those are on those frames are on the back.
Yeah, we were going to have 2 fans where he's mounting it anyways. So instead, we'll just have the radiator and the fans there. And then it'll just be 3 fans up top.
Perfect. And that'll still that still works as far as getting things out, as far as the airflow is concerned.
Yep, yep. Our tubes at the top will be above the pump, which is what you want, obviously. So yeah, it'll still work.
So taking a look at the back of the PC where we've got the view we have right now, as people may notice, again, with the O11s, one of the genius things about these, and I mention this every single time because it's the smartest thing, you'll notice that motherboard is not mounted on the very back of the PC frame. You'll notice it's about 2/3 of the way back, leaving a gap in an area. So let's talk about those areas and what they're for.
Yeah, so you can see 2 bays there. One you can kind of see through, and one has almost like a kind of like a mesh looking. It's got holes drilled right here. So this is going to be where we are going to install our hard drive, our HDD. That'll come in here. There's a tray that'll come out. It'll mount there. And this top part is where we're going to be putting our power supply. Now that is a very small space, which is why we have an SFX power supply here. This is the whole 750 you can see in my hand. Very small. But what that's going to allow, since that's behind here, is it's going to pull fresh air in from the back and then exhaust it out here. So none of the heat from the power supply is going to be in this case.
So is that why the power supply is on top of or over the top of the hard drives to keep them from overheating?
Yeah, there's probably some other designs that they had to do it this way for those cables, but yeah, even if the power supply, if they were swapped and the hard drive was up top, that would still be fine as well.
Interesting. Okay. Now, does this build have the hot swappable bays like we've seen on the larger O11 builds?
This one does not. So the only O11 that has that I've seen so far is the XL, where you can just plug and play.
Got it. Okay. Perfect. So we're gonna get those wired in. They'll be on their own tray. And as far as the 2.5 inch that we're putting in there with the 2 terabytes of space, we got 3 terabytes of space on this guy. gonna be grand.
Yeah, that's a lot of space. You can see the radiators mounted in there now, so that's where we were gonna put fans, and then we're gonna have fans on this side. So. Will we have these exhausting, Christian? Is that right? On the radiator or intake?
So I'm gonna have these. We got exhaust, and these are gonna be intake.
All right.
And exhaust through. So these are gonna be pulling.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm sorry, I missed that. You said it's gonna be pulling?
Yeah, this will be pulling air through. Technically, I could throw the fans on the back and have them push, but I want to show off the RGBs.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna have
sure.
my fans on this side pulling air through.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. See, and this is why you come to shows like this.
Yeah.
And see it happen in real time. Oh yeah, there you go. I mentioned put Scarab-KEL7. Put that in on the giveaway site for 100 extra entries, one use, and there you go.
100 extra entries? That is awesome. I didn't know we were gonna. That's sweet.
Yep. First one to get to it. So, is there anything that you're noticing that is different or more, or I would say, more difficult with putting it here like this, as far as cable management's concerned?
No, not really. Cable management's still going to stay pretty much the same. Really, we're just changing the orientation. That's about it, man.
If you were doing this in your PC at home and you were using a different case, like the big thing you want to check, which Christian already did before he wanted to put it here, is that your tubes will, run to cover the CPU socket like this.
Yeah.
So that's a big thing to check, but yeah.
Gotcha. Cool. Yeah, my only fear at that point would be anything contacting the fan. As we've mentioned, those make a horrible sound.
Yeah.
And it's better if you just don't. Just avoid that altogether.
Mm-hmm.
Now that seems like something that happens or could happen more often with boards not having enough space at the top. Is that a hiccup that you've come across before?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, I've definitely had
It
myself
kind of
too.
depends on, if where you're mounting your radiator, and like in this case, the radiator works. If we had some different RAM that maybe was shorter, it might work. So it kind of depends on your RAM. Some motherboards have taller heat sinks as well, so the heat sinks on the motherboard could have prevented that as well.
Yeah.
So
Interesting. Okay. Lots of little things to consider when you're planning out your PC build.
yeah.
And you can plan and plan and plan, and sometimes
You
it's
just run
still,
into something.
yeah,
Yeah.
like,
Such is the way of life. There we go.
Say la
Now,
vie.
yeah. Will this PC be getting an overclocking for its graphics card or its GPU?
No, I don't believe we're going to be overclocking this one here.
Well, we are going to be testing it out. Let's talk about what happens once this build gets completed. Before it gets given away, what is it you do to every single PC that comes through the line?
Yeah, great question. So every PC, once we're done with it, it goes into our testing and integration department, and this is where we're gonna, for the first thing we're gonna do is set the BIOS. So we're gonna go through and make sure everything's showing up correctly, our drives, make sure our RAM's at the right speed. Then we'll load the operating system, maybe some games, anything the customer wants us to load on there for them that we can do. And then after that, it goes through a rigorous 12-hour burn-in. So we run some burn-in software. 3D Mark's one of them. Kind of whatever we see that we think will work best, and yeah, stress test it for 12 hours. And what that does is allow us to catch anything that might break. Typically, if a component's going to fail, it's going to fail on startup or shutdown, like most things. So running it, running that software on there for 12 hours will allow us to fix a lot of the mistakes that might have got to the customer had we not done it that way.
Gotcha. Also was noticing that Christian's taking off the old flux
Yeah.
Not flux.
The old thermal paste. Yep.
Thermal paste.
that
There we
was
go.
It'll be hard
Yep.
to see, but I got that cryo knot on there already on the processor.
Little bitty dot. That little bitty dot.
Let's see.
I'm still always impressed with that.
This way.
A little bit goes a long ways.
It does. Yeah. A little piece size dropped is what I tell everybody. So.
Oh, like that.
Everybody kind of has their own method. Some people do an X, some people do a plus sign. I'm sure some people do a smiley face.
I'm noticing that Christian is being very specific with how he's positioning the tubes. Christian, what are the considerations here, and why is this important to pay attention to?
I mean, I don't like to get my tubes twisted up. I think it just looks messy and not very clean. And let's see. And also, I mean, just the flow of the liquid. You don't want to get any kinks in your hoses or anything like that. You just want to restrict flow and cause higher temperatures. So I like to get my hoses laid flat as I can, not doing any weird twirls or anything like that.
Is there a specific requirement of whether they come out the side or the top, or a don't? Are there any don'ts with how to position your AIO?
Really, the biggest thing is the pump. You want to get your pump up high.
Yeah, yeah. If we were we wouldn't want to mount the radiator to the bottom of this case. It would still work, and you would still see gaming. You could definitely still game on it. But there's been a lot of reviews on that, and the way air travels, obviously air is going to go up. So if there is any air in there, it's going to go up to your pump, which can cause damage later on.
Gotcha. Now, the pump is in the radiator, or the pump is actually in that
It's in
processor cover?
in that cover. Yep. So we've got our plate, that big copper piece right there, and yeah. We can actually probably show you too. You want to pop that cap off, Christian?
Yeah.
So we'll kind of show you what that looks like. So there it is. You can see a little bit of PCB there, and our pump is right there.
Interesting. Very interesting. Did not know that, but that's super cool.
Yeah, it is pretty cool.
Yeah. Well done. The little things you learned. It always fascinates me how they came up with this, like just the concept and the process and how it works. And also why don't take things apart. Here we go.
Yeah, when I started forever ago, it was pretty special to have like an AIO on a system, and now it seems like it's almost standard. So it's kind of cool to see how far it's come.
Yeah, my gaming PC is the first one that I ever had that had an AIO on it, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is awesome!"
It's
and
liquid
of course,
cooled. Yeah.
having what we've been learning on the show, I'm discovering that it's less cool than I thought it was, only because I have a 120 with a push pull. So technically it's two fans, but it's a 120 radiator, and I have to basically vent this thing to keep it cool enough to not overheat.
Yeah, for sure. Well, sounds like you got an upgrade coming your way, DJ. So.
Yeah, definitely something I'll be very happy about. Keep looking at it, going, okay, what do you do today? It's funny because I'll reach inside of it whenever I'm playing Rainbow Six Siege, because I've got the side, but like the whole side panel is opened at the top, so I've got the glass screws on the bottom, and it just leans out like that to help vent the air, so I can reach inside my PC at any given point in time. And playing Rainbow Six Siege, I will reach down periodically just to see how warm the hoses are, and I'm thinking, okay, how hot is too hot? If it's to the point of hot, where you just really it's not comfortable to hang on to it, I'm assuming that's a bad sign.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, it's definitely. I would say it's a bad. I don't think it'll fail, but it's definitely not what you want.
Not good.
Yeah.
Got it.
If it's too hot to touch, then yeah, that's probably an issue if you're talking about your radiator hoses. But I've seen a lot of elite gamers have those hand warmer things, but you can just put your hands inside the PC to keep them warm, so that's nice.
It's one of the reasons.
That's
my housemate laughs because he's like, you keep the basement so cold, because I leave all the basement and studio windows, which are these little half windows, because we're in an underground space, all open during the winter.
Okay.
It keeps it very cool because these things will
got the space
heat the room
heater.
up just fine. just fine. Plus, I like wearing hoodies. So,
Yeah.
speaking of which, I'm wearing the new CLX rain hoodie. This thing is actually nice and comfy and warm. I love the fact that it has the CLX logos on both shoulders in the flip. I was actually at Halo World Championships 2 weekends ago. Yeah, no, last weekend. It was what? No. Yeah, no, it was a weekend ago, and it started raining in Seattle finally, which is wonderful. But I walked outside the hotel and it was just pouring, and I looked at the other people who were trying to walk from the hotel to the convention center, all in cloth hoodies, and I thought, that's going to be that's like a towel. That's a wet towel that you have wrapped around you that is going to just leak. And I was like, hold on. I ran back upstairs, grabbed this, brought it down, put it over the top of my sweatshirt. Was completely dry. And it dries pretty quickly, and you can get these on the website. So.
Yeah, I really like those. I've got a red and a gray one, so they look really nice. They're really high quality too.
Okay, and so Christian, right now you're putting those top fans on, which are upper exhaust fans.
Yep. Yeah, last
So
of
the direction of
fans. So
yes, the directional flow is going to be up through the bottom, obviously out that back by the IO cover, 3 up the top that exhaust, and the back 2 are pushing or pulling through into the radiator.
They're pulling through the radiator into the case, so they are also intake fans.
Got it. Okay. But luckily, heat rises, and where it pushes out is away from everything, so it's just going to go right up that top fan.
That's the plan.
Yep.
Great. That's fun. I like it.
Okay, hold that for me.
Yeah, for sure. And like we've talked about too in this design, getting the fresh air in through the bottom is just the first place that fresh air is gonna go is to our video card, which is really nice. That's what we want. That's why I like this design, and all the O11s are like that.
Which is a great thing. Getting that top mounted on there. Final fan. Final fan to see. No. It's Big Sexy says, tell them boys, Matt says hi. I used to work there.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, Matt.
Oh, Matt.
Which Matt?
I was about to say, which Matt? Is it?
All right, Big
Let me
Sexy.
see.
Which Matt are
I
you?
guarantee you, I know which Matt it is.
Yeah?
I guarantee his name's Big Sexy. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't say his last name for good things.
I can't even tell you his last name.
Okay.
So.
Where did he work? Did he work on
he was in
assembly?
He worked on assembly, and then he came back and he worked on shipping for a while.
Matt, I'm sorry, Matt. I'm struggling.
You would remember him.
Okay.
Matt, I miss you, man. You're cool.
If he came back to work, he had to be a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, Matt was awesome.
Oh, that's good. That is awesome. All right, we're getting down to the wire here on things. So I do want to talk about this little tiny power supply, because power supplies of this size generally are about nearly twice that size. And this isn't just an 80 plus like gold. This is an 80 plus platinum.
Right, yeah, it's 80 plus platinum and 750 watts. It is, so the designator for this is SFX. So that stands for, the small form factor, which is what this is. Yeah, it's probably half the size of a regular power supply. And we had to go with this because of our case. So that is something to look out for. This case will not take a standard size power supply, so we had to use the SFX. Something else that's pretty impressive about this is it's fully modular. Which means no cables are soldered in. You can see the ports where our cables will plug in there.
That'll make it a lot nicer and easier for cable management.
Yeah, that'll save Christian a lot of headaches. So, and what that also allows is he's already got a CPU cable plugged into the motherboard and ran out the back. So when we go to put this in, he'll just have to plug the CPU cable into the power supply. And then obviously we'll only use the cables that are needed, so there'll be less obstructions of airflow. And like we mentioned before, easier to manage all the cables. So.
I love modular power supplies.
Yes, modular power supplies are it. If you are looking to save on your budget a little bit and get a little bit more, put your money elsewhere, that is a part where you could save some on your budget. Go with a non-modular power supply. They are cheaper. But yeah, if you're going to
Just
ask
more
my
frustrating.
recommendation, yeah, more frustration. Yeah, there's a reason the fully modulars are more expensive, and if you have the money, they are worth it to me.
Excellent. Good advice. Man, this build is reminding me of what we did at well, all the cases that we had at TwitchCon.
Yeah.
So we had quite a few builds.
Yeah, we've been doing a
We had
lot of
130,
11s recently.
135 machines total.
Wow, yeah. I knew it was a lot. I didn't know the exact number, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Here's the thing. I can't remember the exact number, so let's go ahead and take a quick look at our adventures at TwitchCon with CLX Gaming. Hello everyone, it's DJ BluePDX, host of CLX Foundry Live, here with CLX Gaming in sunny San Diego at TwitchCon 2022. A celebration of the community and diversity that is Twitch amongst vendors, games, and more. There are so many different things to see, including 130 different units of ours, all powered by Intel processors. We'll get to that in a second, but first, let's take a look around the show. Of the 130 different machines that CLX has here at the show, 30 of them are right here for the content creators, featuring an incredible i9-12900 processor from Intel, an RTX 3080 graphics card, and 32 gigs of RAM. We have set them up for success to make sure their streams, TwitchCon 2022, are top-notch.
So my name is Jake Hicks. I am one half of the Law of Esports podcast, and I am a esports and gaming attorney.
And my name is Steffi Lopez, and I am the other half of the Law of Esports podcast, and also an esports lawyer specializing in representing esports professionals around the world.
The thing that Neffy and I bring to the table with our podcast and our content is that I represent mostly organizations and teams, and Neffy represents mostly individuals and content creators. So from an org perspective, it's extraordinarily important because you might be doing everything right, or at least you think you do, but if that creator doesn't understand how they can get out of a contract, how they can move to another org, how they can renegotiate, it can hurt the org itself. And so it's vitally important that you understand what your rights are, but also how you exercise those rights. And that's been vitally important for us to explain to people around the world.
One of the misconceptions, and really I say misconceptions because there are lawyers like us out there that are here to serve the community. There's sort of a perception that people think that lawyers are inaccessible, and so they try to handle everything themselves. They say, well, if I can't afford it and I can't get it, let me just do it myself, which is a mistake. And so we're trying to sort of curb that belief that people have and say, look, there are people out there that are here for purposes of helping the community. And it's extremely important that you reach out before you sign any agreement or any contracts. And, we'll be happy to talk to those people. And by listening to our podcast, it's sort of a way of allowing people to receive that education for free. You can literally log on any platform and you can hear it, and you can learn about contracts, you can learn about sponsorships, you can hear other large creators, other people that are involved in the business that are not so much creators, but people that are business professionals in the scene, and they will walk our listeners and viewers through what it's like to try to grow in this field and sort of excel in this field.
A lot of content creators will create content and stream, but they'll also perform other services. They'll be producers, they'll do voiceover, they'll tune PCs and other kinds of things. All those services roll into what you bring to the table as talent, and you have to understand exactly what you're getting compensated to do, exactly how to exercise your rights while you're doing that, and exactly how to move forward from that agreement to grow your brand, your channel, and your content.
And picking back off of that, it's extremely important to understand that no matter how small the value of a contract has, there are a lot of repercussions to signing a bad contract.
Yeah.
Whether you're signing a contract for 10 years and it's $200 a month, don't think that, hey, that's not a lot of money, it's not important. That could potentially take away opportunities in the future if you don't read and understand exactly what you're signing. And so knowing your rights is extremely important on all levels, because it could backfire and you'd be in some trouble. And we don't want you to have to reach out to us at that point.
That's true.
It's better early on.
Yeah, so it's the Law of Esports podcast, the Law of Esports on all socials, on YouTube. You can also find me at Jake Hicks Law on Twitter.
And me at Neffy Lopez Law on Twitter. And our podcast is the Law of Esports across all platforms. Wherever you're looking, the Law of Esports.
Behind me is 75 of our 130 devices that are here at the show. This is the free play area, and it's all powered by Intel processors. One of the greatest innovators when it comes to technology and peripherals is none other than Logitech, whose booth here is enormous. Let's take a look at some of these amazing new products that are coming out. We've got the brand new handheld cloud device that is going to change the game. It allows you to play games on every different service that you have, whether it's Xbox Game Pass, Steam, or more. Those things are all available right there. We also have the brand new A30s that just came out, featuring Bluetooth and Lightspeed wireless technology, making sure that you can use them in any setting and for any reason. One of the really great things about all the different products at Logitech is the variety and diversity of the color tones, so that you can make sure that it's on brand with the content you create. When it comes to all things racing, having the right equipment is essential to make sure that you can get around those turns and operate that car in the right way to win that match. Behind me, the brand new Pro Wheel by Logitech takes driving to the next level. With everything from pedals to paddle shifters, you've got what you need to get to the end of the race and win. In July, Logitech released a brand new line called Aurora, featuring softer tones, great pads, and most importantly, a brand new looking design on headphones. The G735 is not only Lightspeed wireless, it's also Bluetooth. It's designed to be lightweight, it's great sound, and the isolation, well, it's perfect. Right now, we're at the Donor Drive Charity Arcade, and joining me from them is Casey. Tell us a little bit about your organization.
Yeah, hi. We're Donor Drive. We're an online fundraising software company, and we're here at TwitchCon to support our charities and help them recruit, fundraise, and meet all kinds of creators.
And you've got quite a selection here. We've got representatives from Bungie Foundation, Landfest, so many different ones. How many different charities do you work with for organizing?
So we work with hundreds of charities across North America and Australia.
What are some of the best features of this booth here for people to come and see?
Well, we wanted a place where people could come and relax and have fun. And there's a whole journey map where you can go to all the different worlds. Everything is outer space themed.
Awesome.
And collect your pins, and then you can win prizes at the individual charity booths, and then again at like the Donor Drive redemption booth.
You mentioned charity streaming. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so charity streaming is where content creators can stream live, and while they're doing whatever they do on camera, they can fundraise for charities and raise money for them.
Well, it seems like that's a much easier way to gather the efforts of so many different content creators, because it's not just one person.
That's right.
It's groups of people, teams of people. You can also make it like a competition.
Yeah,
How much money
absolutely.
can you raise?
Exactly. Yeah.
That is great.
That's exactly what we're doing today, actually. We do have a competition. We're fundraising here in the space today, and all the money raised will go directly to these charities.
That's incredible. People wanted to get to find out more of how they could help, how they can help with organizing, or how they can get involved. Where would they go?
Yeah, just donordrive.com, and we have a whole section on charity streaming. So that's what we're here to do, is promote charity streaming and help these causes.
Thank you very much for your time, and this is great. I'm with Q-Noob from Landfest. We're going to talk a little bit about what's going on here.
Yeah, so here at Landfest, we're a non-profit organization. We pride ourselves into building healthy communities through gaming. And the concept is we have over 30 different chapters all throughout the country, from Washington all the way to New York. We like to help out in any way, shape, or form, either it be sponsorships, either it be equipment, or either it be actually sending a crew over to help out. Today here at TwitchCon San Diego, it's going to be the first time we ever raise money for Landfest ourselves.
That's awesome.
That's great. So how does LANFest benefit the communities around them?
Yeah, so we make sure that we bring the gamers together through, like we say, LAN. So we put, let's say, for example, LAN in Washington wants to raise funds for their fire station because there's been lots of fires. What we do is we say, all right, what can we do to help in order to make sure that your fundraising is successful? Like I stated, if they want actual computer equipment, we send over. If we want, sponsorships, we can connect them with different sponsorships. And if they want a crew to help out, run their event, then we send a crew over.
Awesome. Sounds great. And this has been incredible. We've got so many different games. This booth is obviously banging because everybody is here. Also, you streamed yesterday. How did that go?
It was super fun. We allowed for my community to not only know the mission statement about LANFest, but the whole idea about Donor Drive and how it supports so many different charities, whether it be Extra Live, whether it be the match, or like us, LANFest, just trying to help out the community. We had so much fun. We had a couple dances, a little bit of community just come in here and be able to promote themselves, because a lot of content creators come to TwitchCon in order to really advocate for themselves and advocate for their brands. So being able to do that was so much fun.
So if people wanted to find out more about how they could get involved, where would they want to go?
Yeah, the easiest way is through our Discord server or even Google. We're the top search, so you can find us right on Google.
There you go. One of the biggest events that's happening here is, of course, Twitch Rivals in the arena behind me, giving content creators and partners an opportunity to battle it out for that one final win. So we've seen everything from peripherals to fundraising, charity, and more. We've talked to everything from attorneys to content creators. And most importantly, we saw a computer inside a computer. Make sure you follow CLX Gaming at our socials, that is Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And for everybody at CLX Gaming, I'm DJ BluePDX. Don't forget to tune in Tuesdays at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 a.m. Eastern for our live build show called CLX Foundry Live. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again.
Okay, that was fun. I liked watching that. Sorry, I didn't realize we were back to live already. Awesome, perfect. Hello. So yeah, there was a computer inside of a computer. Omix 6. It was pretty impressive. We actually built one here on our show a couple weeks ago, and they put an Intel NUC inside of a whole full-size little case. It was wild. And I think that's one of the cool things about what we do here at CLX is the ability to customize all of the things that we do. So let's take a look right now at our website, because I'll be honest, it's the best part about this. Whether you're going through a process of building out your PC or wanting to find something that's already pre-made, CLX Gaming has the best options for that. And you don't have to be a professional to figure out what you want to do. All of the different elements in here are all protected by a conflict resolution system. And I say that meaning when you go in to build your own PC, one of the cool things is you can start by choosing your main components. Say you want to start with the processor and then a graphics card. As you select other items and elements, the system and site will guide you through the process of ensuring that you not only have a compatible motherboard, but a compatible case, compatible RAM. And if you don't, you'll see where it stops saying add to cart and starts saying solve conflict. And then it gives you all of the options. It's great. It provides you the opportunity to build the right system to meet your needs for your brand. Whether you're a content creator, whether you're a filmmaker, whether you're an audio producer or an architect, each person's needs are specific. And the best part is it's all customizable right here. But don't worry, you don't also only have to do pre-builds. We have thousands of pre-built, ready to ship computers that are here and ready on site just for you. So for all of your gaming needs, including peripherals, check it out right now, clxgaming.com. Here we go. So, gentlemen, where are we now?
All right, so the hard drive has just been installed, and it looks like Christian's pretty much got the tie-up done. I know there's a couple more cables that need to be thrown in, but got all the fans managed, which is the hardest part, and it looks great.
Awesome.
You're almost there, guys. Almost there.
Then we will get our power supply and our graphics card in there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see how this thing lights up, especially with that custom glass that's there.
Yeah, I am too. This will be the first time we've seen it with anything in it, so this will be really nice. The color choices are really nice.
Yeah.
It's like refreshing almost.
Yeah. Well, it's so subtle. It's so subtle. Did Crow do those?
Yeah, he did. Yep.
I'm assuming he does all the designs. For anybody who doesn't know, Crow is Scarecrow also on here. All right, sounds like we are back. You may have a commercial, but it's okay. Welcome back to the stream. We had just a little bit of a technical hiccup there with the internet, but don't worry, we got it all covered. So let's catch up with where we were. We went over the website. We saw everything that happened at TwitchCon. Right now, Christian's putting the final touches on this build. Christian, what's up?
Throwing in the video card right now. Once I get that in, going to put my power supply in, get the 24-pin hooked up, VGA cable, and really just tidy up the power supply cables, and we'll be good to go.
Perfect. Juiced Chico says, may I ask a question? Sure. What question do you have to ask?
Absolutely. Please
ask us.
Give me somebody else to talk to.
Yes, Christian is single. No, I don't know. I don't know if that's true even.
Oh, it's true.
Okay.
Yeah, any questions you've got, please make sure to ask. That's what we're here for.
Surprised we haven't heard of from I Love Peace stuff.
I know. Yeah, biggest fan. I don't know. He's not here today. He's out sick. All right. Oh, yeah, sorry. 24 pin and then a VGA.
Cool. Thank you.
Awesome. All right. So what's your question there, Juiced? I'll wait for you to
Maybe that was his question.
Well, you know what? That technically that does qualify as a question. Good grief.
Got him.
Now that is a big cord. Are you using a
so this is the 24 pin right here.
Okay.
We won't be using combs on these. That's typically just for the sleeved cables. Like we usually use Cable Mod. There's some other brands out there, but this is just the modular 24 pin here. So yep, this is the widest, thickest cable. Yes, I was able to sneak in a thick.
Well done, sir.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, we're getting that done and pushed on. Now, is this... Oh, so Juice finally... Here's Juice's question. I have an... That's an interesting question. I have an NZXT Kraken Z73. Can I run it in a CLX PC? I'm not familiar with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm assuming that's your liquid cooler, right?
Yeah.
Is that right, Christian?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's referring to his AIO there. He's got an NZXT AIO. They call theirs the Kraken. Yes, you could. Obviously, you want to make sure the case that you picked can fit a 240, 360, whatever you have. But if you can, if you want to like test it, configure what you want to configure on our website, and then put your size cooler, select that just to see if there's any conflicts. But yeah, you can definitely do it. Obviously,
Nice.
You might not be able to fit a 360 in an ITX case, but that's not because it's in DXT. That's just because of the case.
Yeah. There's limited space in an ITX case.
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Awesome. Good to know. All right, we're getting those final cables connected. This is the part that always screws me up. And it happens every single time that I've ever tried to build a computer. I'm always I always put everything in the wrong direction or in the wrong order, and then I have to go back through and pull things out and I end up taking the PC apart and putting it together like 4 times just to get everything done correctly. I'm so much more thankful right now for what you guys not only are teaching, but also the fact that you do it all there at CLX, and every one of them is hand built.
We are happy to do it.
We're happy to do it. We love it. We're all pretty much every one of us here is a hobbyist already, so
yeah,
we just like doing it. Christian's tie-ups are great too. Like I was commenting while we were showing the TwitchCon, I was like, dude, that looks so good. And he's like, this doesn't look good. I'm like, dude, it looks really good.
It's not
like
my best.
we don't even need to throw the cover on.
No.
Just let that be displayed.
Let me tie up an Elite, and I'll show you.
An Elite?
Yeah.
Oh man, the Elite is a case that's taller than a mini fridge. So
that's not a joke.
Yeah,
either.
we couldn't do it on this show. No, we could do one on this show, but we'd have to be on both sides of it. It couldn't be in front of us.
I'm just gonna read this out. I've got Lunch B is in the house. Hi, Lunch. Ivory wrote out, it would be really odd though if I typed a really long message and just hid the code smack in the middle of that message. It was incredibly long and make no sense past a certain point and the code. But I just kept typing so you couldn't jump straight to the end and grab the code without having to read this pile of nonsense. Flawless execution. Well done. Oh yeah, and I agree with Scarecrow here. Artists are always critical of their own work. Yeah, no. As a DJ, I am forever irritated with myself for the little things that I hear in them that nobody else seems to notice, and yet it still bothers me every time.
Did Scarecrow just call me an artist?
He did.
Oh my goodness.
You are an artist.
Aww. Thank you.
Yeah.
Got to get those ties on just right.
It's the nicest thing Scarecrow has said to anyone.
Probably.
Wow.
Let's see. Let's reroute this.
I'm also just noticing the hexadecimal print on the top.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks awesome.
Is that text? It looks like it's textured.
So the print does have some textured on it, yes. Yeah, so like those holes, you can feel the glass there, and then you feel, the print.
That's cool.
Yeah, it is.
There we go.
That's like an all new color scheme that Scarecrow came up with too that I really like.
Yeah, I dig these colors.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, honestly, Crow, this is one of your best color schemes. I like how the subtlety, how it fades out. It's not just constant permanent lines, but it's got a bit of both. Exclamation join. I'm not sure that's a command there, Jamie Ho. Oh, you want to enter exclamation Scarab to join. Yeah.
Exclamation Scarab.
Yeah, there you go. And we've got that 3060 installed in there. Let's talk a little bit about that because we haven't really touched on that. The RTX 3060, obviously, it's right in between the 50 and the 70, clearly. What are some of the big talking points about the 3060, aside from the fact that it's a 30 series with some pretty heavy power behind it?
Yeah, so this is a great card. It'll run, anything you want it to. Depending on the settings, obviously. But it's a great card. It has 12 gigs of VRAM, which is really nice. I believe there's a 10 gig and a 12 gig model of the 3060. Typically, they'll come out, the 10 gig was first. It's either 8 or 10. I can never remember. So they released newer 3060s with 12 gigs of RAM, so that's really nice. That's a lot of memory to have. And yeah, it's a great card.
Awesome. And and that's pretty much the equivalent of like a 2070.
Yeah. It's going to perform a little bit better than a 2070.
Nice, because I have a 2070 in my gaming machine, and yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah, the 2070 is still a great card. I actually just upgraded this last weekend from a 1080 to a 2080 Super.
Oh, did you?
Nice. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that's been really good. It's been nice.
Okay,
I've never played anything that's like super demanding. Like I'm playing like League of Legends and a lot of Magic Arena and stuff like that. But playing Overwatch now, been pretty into Overwatch too. I did see a really nice performance increase, so that was cool.
So as far as performance goes, the other thing that I noticed it changed my performance was when my solid state drive died and I had to put everything on my M.2.
Oh,
I get more frames per second with it on the M.2 for some reason. So, question: you said you have a 2080 Super, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the difference between what differentiates the 2080, the 2080, the Ti, and the Supers?
Yeah. So there's typically the 2080 and then the 2080 Ti, and then they introduced the Super, which is a middle ground in between that 2080 and 2080 Ti. So it's just another way to hit like a different price point. So if you want to spend a little bit more than a 2080 but don't want to spend all the way to the 2080 Ti, it gives you another option there.
Gotcha. Okay.
I'm kind of on the fence with all the different versions of them. I mean, they're great to have all these price points, but it's a lot of models to keep track of. Once you start adding a Super, like you got a 1650, then you got a 1650 Super, then you got a 1650 Ti, and that goes all the way up. So
that's going to bring me to a whole different topic of conversation real quick. Let's talk about the 1600 series.
Yeah,
what was
oh, sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, like where does that fall in the lineage of RTX cards?
Yeah, so that was released as I forget exactly when they released it, but it was released more of like a really good budget option. I'm sure they were trying to compete, so they came out with that. They probably had that up their sleeve, honestly, if I just had to guess, and then use that as a really good, introduction card that can give you high frame rates at 1080.
Gotcha. So it looks like the 1650 launched on April 23rd of 19.
Okay.
2019.
Yeah. I remember.
And then the Super launched on November 22nd.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, because it didn't really follow in line with the normal nomenclature for it. With the standardized nomenclature.
Right. We were used to, I believe it was when the 20 series or 30 series? They all blend together. I believe it was when the 20 series came out, then the 30 or the 16 came out.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And so it was kind of like, well, what's this? Weird. That first number is usually the generation. So, it kind of shocked us all.
Went from 10 to 20 to 16.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate math, but I'm fairly certain that's not the right order. Well, then again, same can be said for Xbox,
Right.
That's true.
We have the one. We have the Xbox. Then we have the Xbox 360.
Over. They better
then
have
the
the two next. They better
right?
just start over. So.
Upside for PlayStation 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Alrighty, so we are slapping the panels on here, and then we'll be good to go. Excited. I'll try to get my fingers off with these. Yeah, there's some on there. Yeah. I'm gonna get this
gotcha.
This off here. Hey, that came off good. Thank you, Leon Lee. Sometimes they stick like crazy.
Oh.
All right, so there is.
That should be its own ASMR.
Seriously, it should. We'll take this one off.
And of course, always making sure that you get all the plastic off the inside and the outside is important. Look at that. Nice.
Look at that clear. Man, look at that shot. That is so. This case looks so good.
It does. And of course, these just hook in with little hooks that are already built into the glass, and you just slide it on down like that.
Yep. Perfect.
Love it.
I'm going to rotate this just a little bit, Jason. No? Okay. Oh. No. You saw nothing.
That front panel, though, is gorgeous.
It is. All right, so we've got the magnetic filter on the top. They're on the top on
and that's what holds everything together.
Yeah. The last bit.
Yep, and you screw the easy screw thumb screws in the back, which is nice because they don't fall out.
That is it.
That's it.
Yeah, this looks ridiculous. And now we get to plug it in and see with all the lights what this thing finally is going to have.
All right.
All right. Boom.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Good.
Look at that.
I love the front panel on this.
That is slick. That's amazing. Yeah, I love the way the colors light up the images from behind. Just adds that much more depth and character to it. Oh my gosh. So this, of course, is our giveaway build. Let's take a look at what we've got inside of it. This is going to be powered by an Intel Core i7-13700K. There's a 3.4 gigahertz processor, and it's going to be attached to an ASRock B660M Pro RS motherboard with 32 gigs of DDR4 3200 RAM and a graphics card. It's an NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3060 with a 12 gig. It's a 12 gig version. It's going to be able to pump out some really great frames. The operating system will be handled on a 1 terabyte Patriot P300 PCIe 3.0 M.2 NVMe, and of course a 2 terabyte 3.5-inch Seagate Barracuda in the back as well for additional storage. It's going to be cooled by a CLX Quench 240 closed AIO liquid cooler, and of course bringing you power to all those 9 fans plus everything else in that system is a 750 watt SilverStone SX750 80 plus platinum power supply. Absolutely incredible. Well done. And I believe this is also going to be shipped in one of the world's most incredible things ever, and Paul's reason for working out on Tuesdays.
Absolutely.
It's called the Sarcophagus.
All right.
This bad boy right here.
It is gigantic, but it ensures that you will be very, very protected.
Sorry, UPS/FedEx.
Yes. Also, if you're ever being chased by Michael Myers, just leave that in the stairwell, and you'll have a problem getting down past it. Yeah. It's prevention. What it is. All right. Well, gentlemen, final thoughts on this.
Wow, this thing looks great. Was able to get the colors kind of matched up while you were talking about it, so it looks even better now.
Make sure you get those entries in, guys.
Yeah, win this thing. This is the first one, so really cool.
So you'll have the chance to enter from now until November 30th. Once again, use that the URL that you see in chat, and there are so many different options and opportunities to enter. We look forward to finding out who our winner is, and of course that'll be happening at the end of the month. So make sure you tune in every Tuesday at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 Eastern for CLX Foundry Live as we go inside custom builds and assemble them from the ground up. If you want to keep on top of everything going on with CLX, make sure you're following us on YouTube, TikTok, and Twitter at CLX Gaming, and right here on Twitch at CLX Gaming TV. On behalf of Jason in production, Christian, and Paul, I'm DJ BluePDX. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.